shaker hymn converted for our purposes. Lord, prepare me to be your sanctuary. Mighty God.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We turn in our prayer book to page 9 as we light our Shabbat candles. Teaches us that remembrance is the secret of redemption, and it's our pleasure to welcome Sam Tannenbaum up to the Bima as he leads us in Kiddush in honor of his mother, of blessed memory. Dorothy, come on up as you lead us annually to remember your mom. And for those who are able, we rise together at home. Page 10.
Oh
seated. Thank you, Sam.
We sing Psalm 96 together next.
We turn to our prayer book, Lachado D, page 4.
Shabbat
table, we rise together and we face the west to greet Shabbat Hamakah. We remain standing and we turn to the bottom of page 11. Please be seated. We turn to the bottom of page 13, the great teaching from Rabbi Nachman of Wroclaw, who taught us, Master of the universe, grant me the ability to be alone. May it be my custom to go outdoors each day, among the trees and grasses, among all growing things, there to be alone and enter into prayer. And there may I express all that is in my heart, talking with God to whom I belong. And may all grasses, trees, and plants awake at my coming, send the power of their life into my prayer, making whole my heart and my speech to the life and spirit of growing things, made whole by their transcendent source. And that they would enter into my prayer, that would I fully open my heart in prayer, supplication, and holy speech, that, O God, will I pour out the words in my heart before your presence.
Tonight, I will be singing an Ahavat Olam written by Morris Parrish. Morris Parrish was born at the beginning of the 20th century in New York City. He was a member of many synagogue choirs and ended up founding his own choirs, and he became a professor at the School of Sacred Music in New York City, which is the seminary that I attended, and he is greatly beloved there. And I will be singing one of his pieces, which I wanted to share with you because it's so beautiful.
It's בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיינו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בתווך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there's one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage to Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at shalom. And we shall rejoice as Israel did, sing the songs of our redemption, the Michalocha, page 21. The top of page 23, Adonai, our God, cause us to lie down in peace and raise us up, our sovereign, to life. Cover us with the sukkah of your peace, improve us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enmity, pestilence, war, hunger, and anguish. Let there be no evil before us or behind us. Protect us within the shadow of your wings. For you are our guardian and our helper, our divine ruler, merciful and gracious. Guard our going out and our coming into life and to peace, now and forevermore. Cover us with the sukkah of your peace. Bless you, Adonai, who spreads the sukkah of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Page 22.
Ashkivenu
We turn to page 24, and for those who are able, we rise together for tefillah. Please be seated. And we turn to the bottom of page 29 as the great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel taught us so perfectly, because the meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week we live under the tyranny of things in space, but on Shabbat we try to become attuned to the Kedusha, the holiness in time. It's a day when we're called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the result of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Page 30. The top of page 35. Grant us peace, thy most precious gift, O thou eternal source of peace, and enable Israel to be its messengers to the peoples of the earth. Bless our country that it may ever be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. Make contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among the inhabitants of all lands. Plant virtue in every soul. May the love of thy name hallow every home and every heart. Praise be thou, Lord, giver of peace. Page 34. Take a few moments for silent prayer.
Ose shalom bibromav, uyase shalom aleinu, me'al kol Yisrael, me'imehu ve'imehu.
It's at this time in our service that we remember those in our lives who are afflicted by any type of pain, physical or spiritual, and we wish those in our family, our friends, our community, those in our inner circle, we pray for them and wish them well. The congregation thinks of the following people: Carol Kazitz, Katie Bates, Nick Panay Otopoulos, Melba Epsman, Kenny Siegel, David Romanoff, Rucker Collier, Eileen Johnson, Fred Friedman, Mike Freeman, Christy St. Charles, Don St. Charles, Kathy Kalat Mendel, Mark Petrovsky, and Diane Larson. And if there are others whom you are thinking of today, please say them to yourselves silently. We sing Misha Berach together.
Shabbat Shalom. My last year rabbinical school that summer, I interned at the famous Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. And for those who unfortunately have already been there or notice it when being in LA, there's two large towers. And when I would visit patients, I took the stairs. I never wanted to take the elevator. This is, how I got additional exercise. And for those who've been there and walked the stairs, you'll see that there's inspirational quotes to keep on motivating you that you could make it all the way up to the 8th floor. And I remember, in particular, there's one quote that I remembered from the greatest hockey player of all time, Wayne Gretzky. Now, for those football fans out there in the South who think that football is the greatest thing, then keep in mind that Wayne Gretzky in one season scored over 90 goals and there's 82 games in a season. So I want you to try to process that. But nevertheless, he had a great quote, and he taught us that you miss 100% of the shots you never take. His words, of course, remind us that risk-taking, failure, and even success are all parts of the human condition. And as I told you before, I always remembered this quote when I saw it. It's not because I think that hockey is the best sport on the planet, but it's the focus of the human condition. This idea to wrestle with failure. And last week, we decided that we wanted to take this moment, especially during the drosh spot, the sermon spot, and really focus on the high holidays. Because we're not going to be here together, and I want us to get in the high holiday spirit as much as possible. That way we can engage in reflection, introspection, process. We can make this special if we start to do it now, and that's why we're here. Because our Torah portion for the Shabbat, Parshat Matot Maseh, this double portion, it focuses on us not living up to our personal pledges that we make, that we undertake. It speaks to the laws relating to the annulment of vows. In Hebrew, it's a neder. And this is a biblical or a halachic understanding that a vow shares nearly equal status to a biblical commandment. So if I made an oath or a pledge saying that I will do X, this oath-taking, according to the biblical prescription, and even rabbis a little bit later, they take this seriously. And if we were to violate an oath thousands of years ago, we would actually end up in a court appointment. But as Reformed Jews and Jews living in 2020, we understand the neder, the vow, differently. A vow of this capacity. What is our type of pledges or oaths that we make? Perhaps it's making this pledge to spend countless hours attempting to accomplish some goal in life, some mission. We promise to ourselves that we will do this. And of course, we come up short. And we face our shortcomings and we try to live in this world dealing with our disappointments in which we deem a failure for not living up to the oath or the obligation that we utter. You know, as we explore the human condition and complexities in our lives, this idea of failure is brutal. We never envision our efforts to fail. We want to succeed. And for those who are young watching, we make that pledge to ourselves, that oath that we will work extra hard during the summers to make that sports team. We come up short. We make this oath to ourselves that we're going to earn a certain score on that standardized test score. We don't get it. Perhaps it's really personal. We make some type of oath within our relationships, and we want these relationships to succeed. But then we come up short. So the question is, how do we process our failures, not living up to our vows, and moving forward? And when I wanted to share these words with you tonight, it's always fun to learn a little bit about perspective and wrestling with failure for potential growth. For those who didn't know that dozens of publishers, I did not read these books, but I saw the movies, they were great. Dozens of publishers rejected J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, believe it or not. Emsley A. Laney High School varsity basketball team cut a sophomore named Michael Jordan. Jerry Seinfeld did not get a role in a minor sitcom early on in his career. And believe it or not, 21 publishers rejected William Golding's novel about a bunch of British boys stuck on an island. Of course, this book was called Lord of the Flies, and he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. These aforementioned names, of course, became very successful, and William Golding was actually knighted because he became so successful in the book. It became part of the Cliff Note series, and Mrs. Hearn, my freshman English teacher, if you're watching, I sincerely apologize. This is how I was able to, write that paper for you. Or as the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill once said, success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. These stories work for us in a limited capacity. And I always think a failure not living up to our obligation can be considered a loss. And when I process the damage caused by this pandemic, I wonder how many of us had to give up on years, months of hard work that led to a failure. I also wonder during this pandemic that this has caused us so much anxiety and depression at home, which in effect led to more failures, perhaps with a relationship or at work. During this COVID, these are the complexities, the conditions, the life struggles that we need to process together. I think we need to find some meaning in order to give us the courage to start anew in some way, while drawing on elements and themes from the high holidays. I think this idea of the beauty of the Ymi Norim, the days of awe, can be a great remedy to help us find the courage that we desperately sought. See, our great rabbis many years ago, they empathized with us. They always knew that we were imperfect entities. And the more they understood how life's journey could get in the way with our goals and our relationships, they wanted to do something about it. And despite the strict requirements found in Bershat Maseh regarding oath-taking, they knew that things would happen along the way. They knew that there would be interruptions with their lives. They knew that there would be challenges. And even when we are so affirming in our mindset that we are so adamant that this will happen, we don't get that expected result. The questions then the rabbis ask is, what next? What do we do? We can't make good on this oath, and therefore we have failed. And this is where our tradition enables its brilliance, because it's so deeply rooted in the human condition, embodied with empathy and especially understanding. As I frequently tell my students, the power of the high holidays is nearly tangible. We can feel it. And after Rosh Hashanah ends, we truly begin to enter into the serious realm of Yom Kippur. And our rabbis wanted us to take advantage of this opportunity. Not to feel the discomfort of fasting or the painful recitation of our transgressions and difficulty making apologies. Rather, it's this empathic brilliance, becoming with who we are and welcoming Yom Kippur. We start Yom Kippur not with a confession of our sins, not with a replay of the year. It doesn't start with daunting liturgy, which is a reminder of all the things that we have done wrong, but rather when Yom Kippur begins at sunset, it's called Kol Nidre, all vows. Before any individual or communal confession, our Judaism gives us its masterpiece. A prayer we recite, Kol Nidre, written 1,000 years ago by Rashi's grandson, Rabbeinu Tam. It's here that God forgives our oaths that we haven't lived up to. God says it's okay. Life got in the way. It's okay. these failures are null and void. And I know the custom of Temple Emanu-El, we normally don't recite Kol Nidre 3 times. We recite it once. But the reason why in most synagogues we recite it 3 times is the following. It's like meeting with the sovereign, a metaphor for God. We enter the first chamber, getting close, speaking softly. And then when we say it the second time, we get a little closer and make that connection. And then by the third time, when we're with our sovereign, our God, this is when our God becomes our friend, the one who listens to our needs and gives us the courage to go and live. And this conversation is where we reflect with God about our shortcomings. It's at this moment when we get the courage to process the obligations we haven't met to other human beings. And the great former chief rabbi of Great Britain, Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, tells us one of the most empowering truths of Judaism is that God forgives our failures so long as we acknowledge them. God does not expect us to be perfect. I wish we could go back in the past to make those changes, but we can't. But this is the beginning of the time when we get to make a difference. As I look back as your rabbi, it's been a year, a long year. Some things worked really well. And after my reflection of this past year, there's some obligations that I made that I wish I'd done differently. But this is the power of Teshuvah, and this is why we are at this moment together. And therefore, I want to offer us a reading that gives us our courage to process with our failures. From our new High Holiday Prayer Book, this is the Yom Kippur volume. And the reading goes like this. Give us the strength to keep our promises, the sacred vows of our relationships, the promises of love and care between families, the promises of duty between citizens and country, the oaths of doctors, the sacred trusts of teachers. Give us the strength to keep our promises to our friends and colleagues, to those who live with us and depend on us, to those who work for us and those for whom we work, to those we pray with us and those for whom we pray, to those we love and those we serve. Give us the courage to keep our promises to ourselves, to one another, and to future generations. Shabbat Shalom. We turn to page 40 and we rise together for a later.
שלא שם חלקנו כהם
this point in our service, we remember those whose yahrzeits fall this week and those who have recently passed. We think of Judith Todd Abrams, Leon Ayland, Alvin B. Bressler, Regina Capeluto, Harold Kaplan, Julius Davis, Rose Shapiro Eisenberg, Phillips S. Veld, Sid S. Friedman, Lena Kaufman Goldberg, Emma Wellman Hart, Abraham Solomon Heffler, Gladys Hiller, Lois Katz, Joshua Klein, William Lefkowitz, Samuel W. Levin, Nina R. Levitt, Henry Louis, Robert David London, Marie Barbet Majou, Bessie Levinson Marcus, Herman Mazer, Joyce Miller, Judy Camp Miller, Helen Needle, Harold A. Nelson, Marilyn Lichtenstein Nelson, Seaman Ullman Newfield, Leslie Otis, Jenny Rose, Evelina Otis Roseman, Goldie G. Rusikoff, Morris Scher, Harry Schneiderman, Florence G. Sonnabend, Shura Chernitsky, Zina Chernitsky, Dorothy Tenenbaum, Joyce Vincent, Catherine Virago, Edwin M. Weller, William Bill Winston, and Sarah Zeldin. We also think of those who have passed away recently: Harvey Gottlieb, Norris Friedman, Margot Kessler Marks, and my grandparents Sheila and Paul Klein. We rise and recite the Mourner's Kaddish together. Yitkada v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach chilutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'itadar, v'it'aleh, v'it'alal, shemei d'kudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael,
We conclude with Adon Olam, the bottom of page 132.